Hi, Concord here. Today we're discussing vinyl records that are secondhand and don't cost a lot and most importantly, sound great. My guest today is my wife who loves to research her vinyl records and find who's behind the mastering and where they have been pressed. She loves finding secondhand vinyl records that are great finds and most importantly, sound great. She's going to share 3 albums with us today that might be worth considering for your collection. So Kate, you're back. We've got 3 records here that are secondhand and most importantly, sound great.
Yes, I've chosen 3 titles today that are more around the 80s synth-pop era. Very cool to listen to and I hope you like them too.
So you gave me the list. We've got Duran, Eurythmics and Tears for Fears.
Yes.
So I listened to Duran first, and I'm going to get straight into it. It reminded me of Def Leppard. And then what I mean by that correlation or that I'm going to make between the two is that their music all in your face. It's all coming at you all at once. Doesn't sound bad, but it's all there. Soundstage isn't as wide as the Eurythmics or Tears for Fears, but you're right, it sounds great. It does sound nice. Now, it is an EMI maxi cut, is that correct? The Duran?
Yeah, so it was released in 1981. It's an Australian pressing and EMI had developed the maxi cut process and you'll see maxi cut in the dead wax on both sides.
I can see here $20 and it's an Australian pressing.
Yeah, it's nice to find little gems, particularly Australian pressings that don't cost a lot, and in our own backyard, it's fantastic.
Yeah, it did sound great, and you've really lucked out in regards to finding a copy that's basically near mint. I had no pops or crackles when I was listening to it. Fantastic find.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's got amazing separation and punch. And my favourite top 3 tracks include very well-known Girls on Film and Planet Earth and Careless Memories.
Awesome record. So I'll go to Eurythmics. Now, I know they're popular songs. I listened to Sweet Dreams. Sounds amazing. Very wide soundstage. Wow, I felt like there was someone in the distance. I could hear the backup vocals. I could hear that triangle. Sounded great. And again, great find. Very quiet, no pops and crackles. Everything was balanced. If I had one thing, maybe the vocals. And this is what I said, I know, on our last podcast, that sometimes the vocals can take a little bit of a back step. And this one is only ever so slightly taking a back step, but it sounds really nice, and it's an RCA.
Yep.
And it's an RCA pressing, and again another Australian pressing.
Yeah, that's right. So it was released in 1983. We're talking about Eurythmics. Sweet Dreams are made of this.
Yes.
I basically bought the record for the song. I love that song. It's a real classic, and yeah, I was really happy to find a copy for $20.
Oh wow.
And yeah, other 2 songs I really like are Love Is a Stranger, which has a great sounding bass on it, and Jennifer.
Yes, I noticed the bass on this as well. I know with our setup we have a subwoofer with our setup, and it's not too punchy, but I could hear that low end nicely. It was nicely balanced. It was quite good. I got a lot. My feet started tapping, my head started bopping. Yeah. For $20.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have been tempted to try, I've noticed there's a Japanese pressing I wouldn't mind trying out, but it's a lot more expensive, and I figure I'm pretty happy with this release. So unless I come into financial fortune, I'll be sticking with this one.
A nice recommendation for $20 secondhand. If you can pick this up in good condition or near mint, hopefully you're getting as much enjoyment as we did with this. Okay, so the third, I was a bit surprised with the third actually, because I remember buying the remaster, and when you said, I've got Tears for Fears, the original 1985 pressing, an Australian pressing again, I took it out of the jacket, and what surprised me was the thickness of the vinyl record.
Yep.
Because back in the day in the 1980s, they were quite lightweight vinyl records. This one was actually a lot thicker. Now, I can't definitively tell you if it's 180. It seems to be over 100 grams. I put it on. It sounds great again. That low end is nice. That mid-range is nice as well. Highs, they're fine. It's a well-mastered album. There's I forget what the second song is, but there's a saxophone. It just overtakes the lounge room and was really quite vast, and it sounded fantastic. The whole album is great. I'd have to say Eurythmics had a wider soundstage, but this is not far behind. And for a second-hand vinyl record, an Australian pressing, the vocals are not taking a back step. They're nicely matched with the acoustics. If I pulled this original pressing out, I would definitely not be disappointed at all. What did you think?
I loved it. I thought it sounds fantastic. So this, just to confirm, this is Tears for Fears songs from the Big Chair, released in 1985, Australasian pressing. I was lucky enough to find near mint copy for $40. You mentioned there was a remaster. I think it was just a reissue for 2014 that we have.
Just a reissue, right? My apology. I'll take.
But I think for me the original is actually going to be my go-to copy. I think the 2014 for me sounded a little bit flat in comparison. When I say flat, I think that's
it's very marginal.
Marginal, but I think for this one really pops for me, especially. I mean, it's such a well-known record. I really love Shout, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, and Head Over Heels, the favourites. It really is a great record.
Yeah, and there's some really nice... The other thing I wanted to mention with Tears for Fears is there's some really nice stereo imaging in there.
Yep.
And you get that drum beats and that cymbal going across both speakers. Now, I'll put this in the description. It's all subjective depending on your acoustics, but we have diffusers on our ceiling, diffusers on the back wall, we've got sound absorbers and bass traps. The sound's going to be subjective, but in our lounge room it sounds fantastic, and I was really happy with this. So 3 albums here that don't cost a lot, and that is Duran, their first album, self-titled.
Yes.
For $20. We've got Eurythmics Sweet Dreams album, and Tears for Fears. That was $40. I think I actually spent $60 or $70 on the reissue. So, I mean, these things sometimes, they kind of fluctuate, the reissue. Sometimes you can find them for $59 or $50. But if you can find a really good second-hand copy that's well priced, I just want to stress again, I know I've mentioned this a few times, they're all Australian pressings. So, thanks for bringing those along, Kate. I will keep listening to these, and no doubt, we talked about this last time. Yeah, you want to do Beatles.
Yes.
Talk about that. But there's so many different box sets. We have the Reader's Digest, but I won't go on about that. We will have to do a video about the vinyl records for the Beatles.
Sounds good.
Anyway, help the channel grow, subscribe, like. We'll put more videos out of this. I'll also upload this to Apple Podcasts. But thanks for joining us. Thank you to my guest Kate, and I'll see you next time.